With us further is Daniel Patrick Welch, a political analyst joining us via Skype from Boston, USA. Thank you for joining us today, Daniel. Obama has announced plans for a $1 billion fund to increase U.S. military deployments to Eastern Europe. What message is he sending out to Putin?
He's telling Vladimir Putin that he's an enemy and that he will stop at nothing to continue the encirclement of Russia at all costs. It's an incredibly dangerous and provocative move, continuing with the big lie that that Russia started something in Ukraine, when most of the world is perfectly aware by now that it's a U.S.-led operation from the beginning. And I think it's incredibly insulting to the memory of the millions of people who died fighting fascism, that in this week, in the run-up to the commemoration of the 70th anniversary of D-Day, that you have Obama giving more money on top of the money that he's already spending in Ukraine, literally to fund a neo-Nazi army, the right sector army wing that is the most extreme in Kiev's arsenal.
Do you think that this move perhaps signals that the U.S. is feeling rather intimidated by Russia?
It's hard, I don't know if you've seen the meme where you have the map of Russia with all the NATO bases, and it said, of course Russia's a threat. Look how close they put their country to our military bases. It's completely encircled. I think they're intimidated in the sense that it's a resurgent Russia, but I think it's the military solution to the long-term threat, which is clearly intimidating to the West, which is in the Eurasian Union, the gas deal with China, the security arrangement with China, the dumping of the petrodollar. All these things bode particularly ill for the West, and what they're doing to fight it is to fund fascists and neo-Nazis to kill ordinary people in Ukraine. It's disgusting.
We know that Poland has been calling loudly for permanent NATO bases. This, however, does violate the 1997 agreement between Russia and NATO. But do you think this is something that NATO could be considering?
Of course. They've violated every agreement they've ever had. Remember, the first general of NATO made it quite clear that the point of NATO was to keep the U.S. in Europe, Russia out of Europe, and the Germans down in Europe. And they have violated the agreements they made with Gorbachev at the end of the Soviet Union, and they have moved the NATO consistently east, violating every agreement they've ever made, and I have no doubt that they will threaten to do so, and may actually do so in Poland.
Let's go back to Obama's current visit. The G7 will meet on Wednesday and Thursday, and this is the first year in 17 that the group has met without Russia. Despite this, Putin will still dominate the discussion, won't he?
Yes, I think that one of the things is that when your enemies are the center of discussion, you obviously are intimidated. He will also be joining at this commemoration of D-Day, which I think is, I have no idea why he's doing it, except that he's a statesman and he's the only adult in the room, so to speak. Yes, he will dominate the discussion because he stands up for his people, and he is sick of being bullied by the West.
Daniel, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Thank you very much for joining us, Daniel.
Thanks for having me.
Welch from Boston, USA. According to Ukraine's acting prosecutor, a total of 181 people, including 59 Ukrainian armed forces servicemen,